If you were the kid who packed your own lunch before you could reach the counter, who calmed down a parent's meltdown before you understood your own feelings, who learned to read a room before you learned to read a book, this video is about you. There's a name for what happened to you. Psychologists call it parentification. And if you're watching this in your 30s or 40s, still exhausted, still the one everyone calls first, still unable to relax even when nothing is wrong, I want you to stay because this might be the video that finally explains why. Somewhere between the ages of 6 and 12, some children quietly stop being children. Not because anyone announces it, not because there's a ceremony. It happens in small moments. A parent falls apart, and a child learns to hold them together. Money runs out, and a child learns to make it stretch. A sibling needs feeding, and a small set of hands learns to do it. Psychologists call this parentification, when a child is assigned, explicitly or silently, the emotional or practical role of an adult. And it doesn't always look like tragedy. Sometimes it looks like praise. She's so mature for her age. He's an old soul. I don't know what I'd do without you. Those sentences feel like love, but underneath them is a quiet transaction. A child trading their childhood for a role the family needed filled. Picture a 9-year-old. Her parents are going through a divorce that neither of them is handling well. Some nights her mother cries at the kitchen table until midnight, and the 9-year-old sits with her, rubbing her back, saying the kinds of soothing things you'd expect from someone 3 times her age. In the morning, she gets her little brother dressed, makes sure he eats something, and walks him to the bus stop because her mother is too exhausted to get out of bed. No one forced her to do any of this in the way we usually think of force. There was no instruction manual, no explicit demand. She simply noticed what the household needed, and she became it. By the time she's 35, she'll be the friend everyone calls in a crisis, the co-worker who never says no to an extra project, the partner who somehow always knows what everyone else needs before they say a word. And she'll also, quietly, be exhausted in a way she can't quite explain, because she's been on shift since she was 9 years old. Researchers usually split this into 2 categories. The first is instrumental parentification, the practical kind. Cooking, cleaning, managing money, translating for immigrant parents, caring for younger siblings, handling logistics no child should have to think about. This kind is visible. Relatives sometimes even comment on it. The second is emotional parentification, and this one is quieter and, in many ways, more damaging. This is the child who becomes their parent's therapist, the one who listens to the details of a painful divorce at age 9, the one who learns to read a parent's mood the second they walk in the door and adjusts their entire behavior to keep the peace, the one who comforts the adult who is supposed to be comforting them. Both types teach a child the same lesson, learned far too early. My needs come second. My job is to manage everyone else's emotional weather, and if I don't, something bad will happen. Here's the part that explains why this follows you into adulthood. A child's nervous system is not built to carry adult-sized emotional loads. When it's forced to anyway, the brain doesn't file it away as a hard year, it files it away as a survival strategy. Vigilance keeps me safe, competence keeps me loved. Managing other people's feelings keeps the household from falling apart. That strategy works. It gets results. The parent calms down. The bills get paid. The younger sibling gets fed. So the brain does what brains do with anything that works under threat. It keeps it. It becomes a default setting, not a childhood memory. This is why so many former parentified children grow into extremely capable adults. The straight A student, the employee who never drops the ball, the friend who remembers everyone's birthday and everyone's trauma. Hypercompetence isn't a personality trait here. It's a nervous system that learned very early that being needed was safer than being cared for. Fast forward 20 years, and the patterns rarely stay in childhood. They just change costumes. You might notice you're the fixer in every relationship, the one who anticipates problems before your partner even names them. You might struggle to ask for help, not because you don't need it, but because needing help once felt dangerous. You might feel a low hum of guilt during rest, as if relaxing is somehow irresponsible. You might find yourself drawn to partners or friends who are a little chaotic, a little in crisis, because chaos is a language you learned to speak fluently before you learned to speak much of anything else. There's also a quieter symptom that rarely gets named: difficulty knowing what you actually want. When your entire childhood was organized around other people's needs, what do I want can feel like a foreign question. Not because you're shallow or indecisive, but because that question was never safe to ask. You might also notice a strange discomfort with receiving. Compliments feel awkward. Gifts feel like they need to be repaid immediately. Someone offering to take care of you, even in a small way, can trigger something closer to suspicion than gratitude, because deep down, care has always come with a job attached. And in the workplace, this often shows up as chronic overfunctioning, taking on the responsibilities that aren't yours, staying late to fix what someone else broke, and quietly resenting a team that has no idea you're doing it because you've never learned how to say the sentence, "This isn't mine to carry." Here's what almost nobody says out loud about parentification. There's grief buried underneath the competence. Grief for a childhood you technically lived through but never fully got to have. And that grief is complicated because on the surface, your childhood might look fine in photos. No one hit you, no one starved you. From the outside, it might even look like you turned out great. But turning out great and getting what you needed are two different things. You can become remarkably successful and still be quietly waiting for someone to ask how you're doing, and mean it. Healing from this doesn't mean rejecting your competence. It means separating competence from your worth. It means learning that you're allowed to be cared for without earning it first. In practice, that often starts small. Letting someone else plan the dinner, saying, "I don't know" out loud without immediately fixing it. Noticing the guilt that shows up when you rest and choosing to rest anyway. Therapy, especially approaches that work with the nervous system, like somatic therapy or attachment-focused work, can help the body unlearn a threat response that's been running for decades. And maybe the most important shift is this: you were never actually responsible for your parents' emotions. A child never is. That responsibility was placed on you, not earned by you, and it was never yours to carry in the first place. If any part of this felt like someone finally described a feeling you never had words for, you're not alone, and you're not broken. You adapted brilliantly to circumstances no child should have had to navigate. If this resonated, tell me in the comments. What's one thing you were responsible for as a kid that a kid never should have been? I read every single one. And if you know someone who was always the mature one, send them this video. It might be the first time anyone's ever named what they went through. Subscribe for more videos on the psychology behind the people we become, and I'll see you in the next one.